In 1969, ZZ Top was formed. We kept traveling nonstop for 7 years straight in order to get hired by Warner Brothers. It was our first official Warner Brothers release. Being a rock star doesn't require him to break guitars on stage. To be recognized, he doesn't need scandals, social media buzz, or shocking things said. Since the early 1960s, Billy Gibbons' chest-length beard, dark sunglasses, and Pearly Gates Les Paul have made him an unmistakable figure in Southern American rock culture. Gibbons is not only a great guitarist, but also the personification of steadfast loyalty to musical identity. He is the lead singer of ZZ Top, a band that redefined Texas-style blues rock. He chooses to stay true to himself, even though many artists change with the times. He holds on to his groove, his riffs, and his soul. Strangely, the fact that he won't change has made him unique. In the crazy world of rock, where fame often means causing damage, Billy Gibbons stands out not for what he has done, but for what he hasn't done. No drug problems, bad relationships, breakdowns, or leaving the band in the middle of a tour. Only one thing stays the same: playing music and being true to it. However, there is a trip behind the calm appearance, the silver beard, and the rough voice. I went from being a boy who was crazy about Elvis to being the last member of ZZ Top. From being famous around the world to losing his best friend, he went through a lot. A studio musician turned into a live symbol of American history. Another big question is how Billy Gibbons has stayed alive while the rock world around him has lost so many stars. The next story tells you the answer. Beginnings. Billy Gibbons was born in Houston, Texas, on December 16, 1949. She was born into a middle-class family with deep artistic roots, not in a poor area or a remote part of the country. His dad, Frederick Royal Gibbons, led an orchestra and ran a theater. He used to work for MGM Studios. There was music all the time in that home. It was just air. Language was involved. From the time he was a child, it was always there at every meal and in every dream. Bobby's dad took him to see Elvis Presley live in 1955, when he was only 5 years old. A little boy in the crowd was shocked to see a man who could light up an entire hall with just a few notes. Not only did Billy remember the sound of the guitar, but also the stage lights, the sweat, and the screams. This is what he would later call the real life of rock and roll. Billy started playing the drums soon after, but in his early teens he moved to the guitar. It was a Gibson Melody Maker that he received as a gift that set him on a path that would last more than 60 years. But more than the guitar itself, Billy was spoiled by a lot of great music when he was growing up. His father played jazz, there was Texas street blues, and California rock was on the rise. When Billy was a youngster, he went to the Hollywood Professional School, which is a part-time school for artists to be. He trained with famous people like Liza Minnelli and, more importantly, got to see what goes on behind the scenes at big Hollywood recording studios. He started playing around with fuzz effects, tube amps, and the dirty sound that would become ZZ Top here. Billy Gibbons' life wasn't terrible, but it also didn't exactly go in the direction he wanted it to. If you're born into a family that has everything they need, desire is the only thing that will make you stand out. That love lived in Gibbons in every riff of B.B. King, every shaky note of Jimmy Reed, and every roar of a guitar, trying to be heard in a world full of noise. As a child, Billy Gibbons didn't try to run away. Growing up, he ran toward music, which helped shape his early artistic personality. That wasn't a bad life. It was someone's childhood when they knew music didn't have to be loud. It merely needed to really feel good. Because of that feeling, a quiet but famous musician started to come along. Beginners in their careers. Late in the 1960s, when most young Americans were involved in anti-war organizations and psychedelic music, Billy Gibbons, who was only 20, started his own band called the Moving Sidewalks. The band played rock music with strong acid rock influences, inspired by Jimi Hendrix and Cream. They put out a single record in 1968 called Flash. Not only the music, though, caught people's attention. That was what made Gibbons and Jimi Hendrix unique. In an appearance on the Mike Douglas Show, Hendrix, a guitarist known for having a very good ear, said that Billy Gibbons is one of the best young guitarists in America. Not every praise is noticed, but when Hendrix said it, everyone in the music world looked at the young man from Texas. However, the moving streets were only there for a short time. Because the trippy rock scene was too crowded and Gibbons wanted to do something more grounded, He went back to his roots in Southern blues. That led to a new idea, a band with only 3 people that could make as much noise as an army. Dusty Hill played bass and Frank Beard played drums when ZZ Top was formed in 1969. Like a lot of other bands, they started out by playing in bars and neighborhood arenas and opening for big-name acts. However, Gibbons had a clear idea from the start. They weren't supposed to be just another blues band. He said that it was his hope that it would become a sign of the American South. The music sounded like gas, smoky roads, cold beer, and hot summer nights. Their first record, ZZ Top, came out in 1971. It told us something important, even though it didn't change the market. This band had a sound that was full of Texas personality in every note. Their riffs were simple but stuck like glue. Billy Gibbons didn't make his plan very loud. He decided to build up slowly, one record and one tour at a time, until people in America started talking about ZZ Top as a rising star. Not a big deal of fame. The sound was consistent and deep, like a truck engine. Still audible and clear, and at the center of it all was Billy, who played the guitar, made the riffs, and set the band's unique look. The long beard, the dark glasses, and the cowboy clothes with silver trim. He did more than just play music. He made himself and his bandmates into a live brand. Their trio would become one of the most famous rock bands of all time. Starting with blues, ZZ Top moved on to boogie and slowly became an important figure in American music. But it all began with one very easy thought in Billy Gibbons' mind. From dusty bars in Texas to the biggest stages in the world, more people are not needed. We just require the correct individuals. One guitar that makes you feel something, like job success. Those were the formative years for ZZ Top. The 1980s were the height of Billy Gibbons and his band's popularity and creative success. In the age of synth pop, MTV, and neon-lit stages, how did a 3-piece blues rock band become famous all over the world? The answer lies in Gibbons' fundamental musical and visual vision. An expert mix of old and new that is performed with care and never loses its original spirit. The introduction of Tres Hombres in 1973 took ZZ Top from the American South to the rest of the world. One of the most famous rock songs of all time is La Grange, which has a mean blues riff that was inspired by a famous brothel. Nevertheless, that was only the start. He was more than just a great guitarist, Billy Gibbons. He knew how to put together songs and videos. ZZ Top released Eliminator in 1983, a groundbreaking record in the band's history, at the same time that MTV was changing the way people watched rock music. Not only did ZZ Top's hits like Sharp Dressed Man, Gimme All Your Lovin', and Legs take over the radio waves, but their bright and funny music videos with classic cars, beautiful women, and 2 bearded men in dark shades became instantly familiar symbols. The album Eliminator was one of the biggest hits of the 2000s, selling over 10 million copies in the US alone. This was what made it even more rare. ZZ Top's music never lost its roots, even though it has computer parts. Gibbons stuck with his catchy, simple blues riffs, his distinctive gravelly voice, and a stage presence that was almost still but gave off an air of power. ZZ Top was a multi-platform phenomenon from 1983 to 1990. They were in ads, movies, and Lego figurines, and they were pretty much everyone's favorite rock band. In 2004, the band was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Along with Rush and the Police, they are seen as one of the most famous trios in music history. In the end, Billy Gibbons was still in charge of ZZ Top's sound, produced the music, and made all the decisions. He was in charge without having to yell. His music was loud enough to make people quiet down. Gibbons' solos were not showpieces of skill. People who heard them thought he was talking through the strings because of the signature delay. This time, Billy also broadened his horizons by producing other artists and working with bands like Slash and Queens of the Stone Age. He even made his acting debut on the TV show Bones as Angela Montenegro's father, introducing his character to a new generation without changing who he was. One thing that has made Billy Gibbons a permanent figure in the ever-changing world of pop music is that he never changes. By taking down the old, he never became a new person. He kept looking into it until everyone understood that sometimes the old is the only thing that lasts. Gibbons doesn't think length or speed determine the best guitar riff. Being clear, brief, and in the right place are important. Like how he's led ZZ Top, not loudly, but in a way that can't be replaced. Tests and difficulties. Rock bands usually break up after a few years because of money problems, egos, or drug problems. The fact that ZZ Top has been together for over 50 years is nothing short of amazing. One of the most important parts of that miracle was Billy Gibbons and Dusty Hill's bond. But all of a sudden, that link was broken in 2021. Gibbons didn't just lose a person, he also lost a part of his music that could never be replaced. In his sleep at home in Houston on July 28, 2021, Dusty Hill, co-founder of Gibbons and longtime bandmate, died. The brief message on ZZ Top's Facebook page was a big deal for Billy, whose life had been pretty calm up until that point. Not to cry for the cameras or make a long speech. He just kept a simple promise that I was told to keep playing by Dusty. Keep going even though I tell you to. I wrote this for Rolling Stone in 2021. It's impossible to replace someone in music. But Gibbons followed through on his promise. Elwood Francis, who had been Dusty's bass tech for a long time, took over on tour just a few days after Dusty's death. The stage lights stayed on and the riffs kept roaring, but Dusty's bass no longer had that steady, unwavering pulse that had held Gibbons in place through every beat. The quiet couldn't be hidden by Gibbons. He brought one of Dusty's bass guitars onto the stage from backstage as a way to remember him. As if he were still listening for his friend's notes, he kept looking to the left side of the stage, where Dusty used to stand. Every night, ZZ Top were often called conservative because they stuck to the same old blues rock sound and didn't want to change like other bands did. However, Billy Gibbons never changed to follow the crowd. "My goal is not to win." Guitar World quoted him as saying, "I play to stay true to my sound." Gibbons stayed true to his core beliefs, which were simplicity, slowness, but always groove and emotion. He did this even when he was experimenting with Eliminator or adding modern sounds to his solo records. Many rock stars try to get attention from the media, but Billy Gibbons has mostly avoided it when he's not on stage. In the Texas desert, he lives alone and collects old cars and strange things. He doesn't like to talk about his personal life. Some have called him an oddball recluse, while others have just said he is too shy. Gibbons, on the other hand, has just chosen a traditional way of life that isn't based on social media or passing trends. In everyday life, if you don't say anything, your guitar talks clearly. That's not necessary. He does not need to fight getting older. That may be why Billy Gibbons is still one of the most recognized people in rock, even though he doesn't make the news every week. During his work, Billy Gibbons has been able to stay away from most of the problems that the music business puts out there. Substance abuse, family fights, and controversial sound bits. But life's rules, loss, loneliness, and quiet trials happen to everyone. As a last resort, he has decided to deal with them by playing music. Everyday life. In a world where rock stars often make news for cheating on their partners, divorce, or living a bad lifestyle, Billy Gibbons is almost the only one who doesn't fit the mold. Neither is he caught at fancy bars, nor does he share sweet pictures of himself with young lovers on social media. Even after more than 50 years in the public eye, his private life is still hidden. People close to him can feel how real it is, but it's private enough that no one else can get through it. Gibbons got married to Gilligan Stillwater in 2005, when he was 56 years old. There was no big wedding, and the press didn't record their vows. They had loved each other quietly for almost 20 years before they finally said they were married. They didn't make promises until they were sure they knew each other well enough. Most of the time, Gilligan is not a rock wife. She doesn't go out in public very often and has never used her husband's fame to get attention. Maybe that's why their relationship has been so steady and quiet for so long. Since Billy and his wife don't have any kids, they split their time between their quiet homes in California and Texas. In Texas, he collects old cars, guitars, and strange art. People who knew Gibbons well say that he was careful, quiet, liked order, and didn't like being interrupted. But that's probably why he stayed out of scandals and the kind of catchy sound bites that many rock stars his age are known for. Another well-known thing he loves besides music is building handmade cars. His 1948 Cadillac, which he named Cadzilla and helped design, is a legendary car in American society. Gibbons doesn't just gather cars. He thinks of each one as a work of art, or as he once put it, a metal riff. "I like music and cars. They should sound good, look good, and be treated with care if you want them to take you far." There have been a lot of questions about why he and Dusty Hill always wore their hair so long and didn't change their look for decades. Because beards don't lie, Billy would just smile and say, "The longer you let it grow, the more it will tell you what's true." Flash not working, not necessary to show anything. Gibbons has built his life around music, on time, with soul, and without worrying about what other people think. That may be why, even after 50 years in the wild world of rock music, he's still himself. He is a guitar superstar from Texas, but he has the heart of a man who knows what enough is. Billy Gibbons didn't try to be remembered, he just chose to live so that if someone saw him now, they'd smile and say, "That was a good man." Also, that might be enough for a life that has been through so many steps. Legacy and power. He wasn't as flashy as Eddie Van Halen or as technically showy as Steve Vai, and he didn't shout for attention like a lot of other guitarists do. That's not what Billy Gibbons did. His guitar doesn't race. Instead, it glides slowly, like a trip through the dusty freeways of the American South. He is one of the most important players in American rock history because of how quiet he is. The way Gibbons plays is a mix of custom and instinct. He uses blues as a bass, which is an old language but full of feeling. He then adds the boogie groove that is typical of the South and a bit of Marshall amp bark and purposely dirty tone. But what makes him unique isn't speed or challenge. It's how well he controls himself. Billy Gibbons knows when to play and when not to play. A class participant once told Billy, "It's not what you play that makes music, it's what you don't play." Many artists today measure their success by the number of views and fans they have, but Gibbons stays true to a more basic music philosophy. Sounds must have feelings, and artists must have a sense of who they are. These qualities have made him an inspiration to many musicians. Many well-known musicians, including Dave Grohl, Jack White, Dan Auerbach, the Black Keys, and even John Mayer, have said in public that they admire Billy Gibbons' skill and honesty in the music he chooses. He had an effect on more than just musicians. Gibbons led ZZ Top to fame as a pop culture hero. A classic picture of the 1980s was two long-bearded cowboys cruising in a red Cadillac. It was used in MTV videos. These images are still used in movies, ads, and even video games. They have made Gibbons more than just an artist. They have become a brand that represents the uniquely American spirit. That's cool, simple, and firm. Gibbons' famous 1959 Gibson Les Paul, also known as Pearly Gates, is a big part of his legacy. It's the guitar that sounds like so many famous riffs. It was later made by Gibson again as a signature model, and it quickly became one of the most sought-after guitars among collectors. Gibbons has made a name for himself in design, old cars, and fashion, as well as music. He has worked with custom car shops, glasses brands, and even been on TV shows that a lot of people watch. He is always clearly himself, though, no matter where he is. Wearing a cowboy hat, dark glasses, and a long beard makes me look like I've been that way for a long time. Change isn't needed. That's what makes Billy Gibbons so powerful. He stays true to the times, but he doesn't try to change them. We will remember him even if he doesn't yell. All it takes is one note for him to make everyone quiet. Today's life. At an age when many artists have stopped working or are living off of their fame, Billy Gibbons is still firmly rooted on stage. He is a tireless worker who just won't slow down. It broke his heart to lose his longtime bandmate Dusty Hill in 2021, but he didn't choose to rest or run away. He kept his word and kept touring with ZZ Top in the US and other countries. Every show he puts on is a tribute to the past, the crowd, and a friend who is no longer able to stand next to him. In addition to keeping ZZ Top going, Gibbons has also kept up a busy solo career. Each solo record has been an interesting but quiet experiment, from Perfectamundo, 2015, which had Afro-Cuban influences, to The Big Bad Blues, 2018, which had traditional grit, and to Hardware, 2021, which had textures influenced by the desert. But he never goes back to his roots, so he doesn't repeat himself. An artist whose work has lasted more than 50 years rarely has this much freedom. In 2024 and 2025, Gibbons keeps showing that age doesn't stop you. It makes music that is deeper and more real. He came out with the single Livin' It Up Down in Texas, worked on the soundtrack for the TV show Landman, and is now getting ready to release his fourth solo record. In the meantime, ZZ Top is making plans for their first new studio album in more than 20 years. Though, Billy Gibbons is still not done touring. In the early 2000s, he went on tour with the BFGs. This summer, he will be leading ZZ Top on the Elevation Tour, which will play over 50 shows across North America. Gibbons led the band forward even when drummer Frank Beard had to step down because of health problems. He has done this many times over the years, never losing sight of the goal. They don't make political points or loud calls to action. Gibbons calms people down by staying true to the music and living by a simple set of beliefs. It keeps playing. There is only a soft shift. It's not yet that shift that I've hit. At age 75, Billy Gibbons has still been performing. It's not the lights or the cheers that keep him there. It's the location where his music really comes to life. Gibbons has never been a loud person. Some rock musicians stomp across the stage or flail their arms around, but he doesn't do that. He stands there calmly with his long beard on, and his left hand stroking the strings while his right hand picks each riff as if he were slowly pouring whiskey into a thick glass. But Gibbons's slowness and calmness are what made him an important figure in the history of American music. It's common for artists to change who they are to follow what's popular, but he decided to stay true to the music that first moved him. Uncut blues, a southern groove, and dirty guitar tones he didn't adapt to the changing times. It was more like the times had to change to fit his way. For more than 50 years, Billy Gibbons has not only led ZZ Top through every change in the music business, but he has also set an example of an honest, calm, and balanced way of life. There are no scandals or tricks, just music, emotion, and a beard that has been grown over time and with honor. His success hasn't been a smooth line of sudden highs. Low notes have been playing steadily along a road that never broke beat. He lost a bandmate, had bad luck, and fell out of the public eye, but he never stopped making music, recording, traveling, and leaving his mark on every string he played. We can learn this from Billy Gibbons' story. There are times when persistence speaks the loudest. People like him who can keep their own beat are the ones who make sure music never gets lost in a crazy world. Please click like, subscribe, and bell to make sure you don't miss the next story about Billy Gibbons. Do you remember something about ZZ Top? Comment with it, because music lives on when we share stories. Keep watching the next movie.